Hello, and welcome Tubman family. I hope everyone is doing well. As you already know, my name is Allende Aviola. I'm one of your third grade teachers, and today I'm going to be leading you through one of your distance learning lessons, all right? Every day, a different teacher, whether it be myself or Miss Deal or Miss Alexander, will be leading you through a different lesson. With that being said, if at any point you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your teacher. And also please feel free to pause the video and rewind the video as needed. That way you can write and answer questions without feeling the pressure of being timed. Okay? With that being said, I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and take myself off the screen. And at this point, you should be able to see what I'm seeing on my own screen. All right, so I'm going to be reading the directions with you. As I'm reading, please make sure you're reading along, especially when it's the point when we are reading the text, okay? Distance Learning Student Work Packet, Grade 3, Animal Habitats, ELA, Week 1. Unit Overview. You have learned about the various ways that plants and animals work together inside an ecosystem. You have read about methods animals use to adapt to their habitats, along with how those habitats are often threatened by human activity. Distance Learning Summary. In this distance learning unit, you will explore the ways human interaction affects the inhabitants of an ecosystem. You will consider the ways various parts of the ecosystem work together. You will also explore ways humans have both negatively and positively impacted various ecosystems. In the next 3 weeks, you will engage with text to investigate and write about the following line of inquiry. How are animal habitats affected when humans interact with their ecosystems? Accessing prior knowledge and asking big questions. Objective. Today, you will read informational text to begin research on your narrative writing topic. Directions. Read the text titled Food Web and Earth's Plant and Animal Species Need Each Other to Survive, report says. Before reading, jot down information that demonstrates what you already know about how the ecosystem works. What this means is, in this first box, we're just going to write down anything that we already know about how ecosystems work. So for example, you might already know that in ecosystems where animals live. You might already know that animals depend on an ecosystem. For food and shelter. I'm sure you know a lot of things about an ecosystem, and this will be your time now to go ahead and write down anything that you know about ecosystems. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds, but if you need more time, please feel free to pause the video and then continue once you're done writing. Fantastic. We're also going to be using the 5 W's and H, which is who, what, when, where, why, and how, to ask questions as we're reading the text. And we're going to do that in this 4 boxes here, Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. So all that means, again, is that as I'm reading, I might ask you to stop and go back and write a question that you have in one of these 4 boxes. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's move on. The first text is called Food Web. Directions. During reading, pay attention to the important details that tell you what the text is mainly about. As I'm reading this text, Food Web, I would also like for you to make sure you are reading along either out loud or inside your head. That way you can develop your own reading habits and improve your reading as well. Okay? So here we go. Food Web. A food web consists of all the food chains in a single ecosystem. All living things are in a food chain. For example, zebras eat plants and grasses. Lions eat the zebras. Lions, zebras, and plants all belong to one food chain. Other animals eat zebras too. Other animals eat the same plants. They all form different food chains. Together, these food chains are called a food web. Let's stop here for a second. So we already know what a food chain is. A food chain is when you have animals, for example, the lion eating the zebra and the zebra eating the grass. That's a food chain. But what is a food web? I want you to think about what you've read and figure out what is a food web. I'll give you a few seconds and then I'll check back in with you. So when we put all our information together, we might be able to figure out that a food web is when there are several different food chains inside of a single ecosystem. So to put it simply, a food web is many different food chains. Let's keep going. Trophic levels. Food chains have different levels. These are called trophic levels. Producers. Organisms in the first trophic level are called producers. Most producers are plants. Algae and some bacteria are also producers. Each producer makes its own food. Most producers use photosynthesis. That means they use sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to create energy. Let's stop and think for a second. What is a producer? After reading, we should have been able to come to the conclusion that a producer is a plant or sometimes even an organism that's able to make its own food. Let's keep going. Consumers. The next trophic levels are animals that eat producers. They are called consumers. Some consumers are herbivores while others are carnivores. They can also be omnivores, which means they eat both meat and plants. Primary consumers are herbivores. They eat plants and other producers. Deer, mice, and elephants are herbivores. They eat grass, shrubs, and trees. In the desert, a mouse is a primary consumer. It eats seeds and fruits. In the ocean, many fish and turtles are herbivores. They eat algae and seagrass. Secondary consumers are animals that eat herbivores. In a desert, a secondary consumer may be a snake. It eats mice. In underwater kelp forests, sea otters are secondary consumers. They hunt sea urchins. Secondary consumers are at the third trophic level. Animals at the next level eat secondary consumers. In the desert, an owl or eagle may hunt snakes. Top predators are also called apex predators. No other animal eats an apex predator. Lions are apex predators. Great white sharks are apex predators in the ocean. Let's stop here for 1 second. Can you name 3 consumers listed? By rereading the text, we should be able to figure out that some of the consumers that are listed here are owls, snakes, and lions, as well as many others. Okay, let's keep going. Detritivores and decomposers. Detritivores and decomposers are at the end of a food chain. Detritivores eat things that are not alive. Vultures are dead animals, for example. Some organisms, like fungi and bacteria, are decomposers. They turn dead plants and other animals into soil. They let food chains start over. For example, grass makes food through photosynthesis. A rabbit eats the grass, then a fox eats the rabbit. When the fox dies, worms and fungi break down its body. The animal becomes part of the soil. There, it leaves nutrients for plants to grow. This way, the cycle keeps going. Let's stop here for 1 second. What is a detritivore and what is a decomposer? Fantastic. We found out that a detritivore are vultures. They eat dead animals. And a decomposer is an animal or an organism that helps to turn a dead body back into soil, such as a worm. We're almost done. Now, for these next 2 sections, what I'm going to ask you to do is to start writing and formulating your own questions instead of me asking you questions. Okay? So this next heading here is biomass. As we're reading, I want you to think about what questions you have, because at the end, it's going to be your turn to write a question down. Biomass is the energy in living creatures. It starts with the sun's energy. Plants use sunlight to create energy, or biomass, for themselves. When animals eat these plants, they also create energy, or biomass. At each step, energy gets lost. At each step, energy gets lost, though. Animals are only able to take a part of it. As you go up the food chain, there is less and less biomass. There is more energy in the lower trophic levels. That is why food webs need more producers than herbivores. They can only have a few carnivores and omnivores. Sometimes food chains can fail. If plants are destroyed, herbivores do not have enough to eat. Their numbers go down. Humans can also destroy a food chain. People cut down forests for wood. What questions do you have now about biomass? I would like for us to go back to the second page of our packet and begin writing a question here that we have about what we just read. And again, if I'm not giving you enough time, please feel free to pause the video and then continue when you're done. Okay, I'm going to move back down. Bioaccumulation. Pesticides get into the soil and water. Sometimes an animal eats a polluted plant. The pesticides stay in the animal's fat. Then a carnivore eats the animal. It takes in more and more pesticide. This is called bioaccumulation. In the 1940s and 1950s, bald eagles began disappearing. DDT was a major reason. DDT stands for dichloro, diphenyl, trichloroethane. It is a pesticide. DDT was building up in soil and water. Fish ate organisms with DDT. Bald eagles ate the fish. Because the DDT, sorry, I'm having trouble with that. Because of the DDT, they started laying eggs with thin shells. These shells often broke and the baby birds died. The U.S. government decided that using DDT was against the law. Many food webs have come back. Baby eagles are now hatching again. This is another opportunity for us to go back and write a question in one of our question boxes. I'm going to give you some time, but again, if I'm moving too quickly, please feel free to pause the video and then continue the video when you're done writing. Okay guys, we have one more text. And again, just like with the last one, I'm going to ask you some questions, but I'm going to ask that you have some questions of your own that we're going to write down toward the end. Okay. Earth's plant and animal species need each other to survive, report says. Some people might think plants and animals do not make much difference to us. Scientists say we are all connected, though. The world's biodiversity's trouble could hurt everyone. Biodiversity is the Biodiversity is the variety of a living things in an environment. An environment can be big or small. Forests, oceans, and deserts are examples. A report on Earth's species. A new report was released on May 6th. It said that nature is in trouble. It said that many kinds of animals could become extinct or die out. The decline of nature is everyone's problem, it said. It is happening around the world. The report was done by the United Nations. It is an international group that tries to get countries to work together. Let's stop and think for 1 second. What information did the report give to people? What information did this report give to people? That's right. It said that nature is in trouble and that animals could become extinct or die out. And this is everyone's problem. This is very important information that we all need to understand that we can move forward. Let's keep going. Nature is important for people to live, the report said. Stuart Pym is a professor at Duke University in North Carolina. He said, if you hurt nature, it is going to bite you back. Below are 4 ways people depend on nature. Food comes from nature. Kai Chan helped to write the report. He said almost all food comes from nature. He is a scientist at the University of British Columbia in Canada. The world is growing more food. There has been pressure on crops from pollution and other forces, though, he said, that has made prices go up, he said. Medicine and tests need the environment. Many people use medicines that come from nature. Thomas Lovejoy is a scientist at George Mason University in Virginia. He points to a microbe that lives in Yellowstone National Park. The park is in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. The microbe is a tiny living thing. It is the key to a scientific reaction. It is used for health tests. Trees can help stop climate change and storm effects. The Earth is getting warmer. Scientists think that it is because of the fuel that people use. People burn these fuels to make energy. Many things from cars to lights run on this energy. Burning the fuels creates greenhouse gases that get trapped in the air. They store heat, making the world hotter. Scientists call this global warming. The world's forests and oceans help. Without them, Earth would be warming fast, scientists said. Mangroves are trees that grow around the coast. They protect land from oceans and storms, the report said. Robert Watson was a leader on the report and said the mangroves are in trouble. People have used mangroves for other things. That leaves the land in more danger from storms, Watson said. A living planet. The Earth is a living planet, Lovejoy said. Many parts depend on each other, he said. So now that we've read both texts, let's go back and see what other questions we can formulate before we end our lesson. At this point, I want to give you the opportunity to fill in all 4 boxes. If you've already done 2, great. If you've done 1, great. That's okay. This is your chance to ask any questions that you still have about what we've read. And this is actually going to be the end of our lesson until tomorrow for day 2. All right? So make sure you tune back in for day 2. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.